which good guy would be absolutely terrifying as a villain. They did this in the comics in the 90s, but then they totally bitched out and copped out on the premise. Mark Waid wrote the story that Xavier had a nervous breakdown and created Onslaught with his powers, but then the Marvel editors were like, we don't want him to be bad, so they shoehorned some horse shit in that Magneto had poisoned his mind when he mind-wiped him. Tolkien wrote in a letter draft about what would have happened if Gandalf took the ring. Gandalf as Ring Lord would have been far worse than Sauron. He would have remained righteous, but self-righteous. He would have continued to rule and order things for good, and the benefit of his subjects according to his wisdom, which was and would have remained great. Thus while Sauron multiplied evil, he left good clearly distinguishable from it. Gandalf would have made good detestable and seem evil. I don't know that he counts as a good guy per se, but John Osterman, Dr. Manhattan, from Watchmen. I don't think there are any good people in that comic, but he's the only one that presents any real danger. His increasing apathy and disillusionment with the whole concept of free will are the only things that really save us. But if he wanted to, he could disentangle every subatomic particle in the galaxy with a thought. Can imagine fighting a villain who can just turn off the 4 fundamental forces on a whim? Makes Superman look like the schoolyard bully next to NORAD. You can't kill him. He exists through sheer force of his own will. He can exist in multiple places at once, and his bodies are just a collection of atoms he's assembled because he feels like it. Takes those atoms apart, and he just puts them back together. Ozymandias pulled a really daring and really stupid gambit, pissing him off to get him to leave Earth. If his anger and frustration at the planet had turned just slightly away from wanting to go away to wanting the planet to go away. What's funny is that my friend and I actually think he is not to be trusted at the least. Santa is an elf and elves are part of the Fae. When you're dealing with the Fae, you have to watch everything you do and say. Fae are notorious for getting you in any kind of deal or contract. You don't know what they will consider as a favor or the opening for a contract. How does Santa fit in all of this? He normalizes the Fae to the children, get them young. The deal is so simple too. Be good. Get presents on Christmas. That's the first taste of what the Fae can offer you, and their request will seem so normal and innocent. But then comes the rule lawyering and the legal snare they can use to entrap you. The Fae are the best lawyers in the universe. They can turn a simple contract into lifelong servitude, and the rub is that their deals and contracts will be ironclad every time. Got on a train at 8:00 in the morning to go to work, just me, my bike, and a very good store Santa on the way to his Santa and job, I assumed. Real beard, nice costume. I'm putting on my helmet, obviously ready to get off at the next stop, when he looks at me with cold, dead, Ted Bundy eyes and says, "I see you when you're sleeping." Motherfucker was still staring at me as I hauled ass out of the train. Arthur, rather than simply ratting his gang out to the Pinkertons, accepts a contract from them to murder his entire gang and capture Dutch. After his easy success, Arthur is made into an actual Pinkerton, and he travels as some sort of demon mongrel with the government's blessing, pillaging until the end of his days at an old age because he murdered his gang long before he caught TB. Kanshiro. We actually see what he'd become with 3 other similar villains. We got a gang leader, a mad scientist who wants to advance Hakuto Shinken with unethical experiments, and a great warlord with the classic shonen ideal of become the strongest. Each of those are terrifying villains, at least, when compared to normal people instead of Ken himself, except for that last one. Alien X from Ben 10. He's probably the most powerful alien life form I've seen in fiction. Yes, he had that weakness of his 2 minds coming in his way all the time to pointlessly debate a solution, but he doesn't have that weakness anymore in the 4th Ben 10 show Omniverse, and that's what makes him a lot scarier than he already is. He can erase our universe in a thought. Deku. I've read a lot of fanfics that explore this, and Deku would honestly be a terrifying villain. In fact, he's already a terrifying hero. He keeps journals of all the quirks he sees, their applications, weaknesses, restrictions, etc. If he applied himself to villainy, he would know how to defeat every hero with ease. He would be in an especially advantageous position because of how heroes in his society rely on popularity, so they would constantly be showing off their abilities and techniques and giving him the ammunition he needs to defeat them. I do think it's very interesting that, had the main three had different morals, they could have been worse than Voldemort. Hermione was, needless to say, incredibly smart and brainy. She could find out basically anything she wanted. She could have been excellent at all the horrible dark magic. She could have gone as far as Voldemort. Ron, while having an abundance of love, still sometimes felt he's least important, as the Horcrux showed him. Imagine if he had latched on to that. He could become incredible cold and cruel, learn all the worst curses, and use Crucio like Harry uses Expelliarmus. And speaking of Harry, the man was born with the knack for dueling. Imagine if, instead of latching on to the disarming spell, he latched onto something darker. Hell, he cast the Imperious Curse successfully his first time, and when he understood it, he cast a very powerful Cruciatus Curse. With the three of them together, they could be worse than Voldemort. Actors like Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo, Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element, and Leo DiCaprio in Django Unchained, for which he should have won an Oscar, have all shown that playing a villain brings out the best in them. I noticed a handful of others, but Tom Hanks would be a fantastic villain. Also, instead of just voicing a bad person, I'd like to see Mark Hamill act one. Goku, fast enough to dodge lasers. As a child he was bulletproof, one of if not the top fighters, who only gets stronger after every fight. If you beat him but don't kill him, he will come back stronger each time. He can sense people from pretty much anywhere in the universe, or others if he is aware of them. Then there is the fact he can teleport right to wherever he wants instantly. Superman is a god. Superman is a god in the Greco-Roman sense. Sure, but there's bigger fish in comics. Consider Dr. Manhattan. He's so terrifyingly powerful that it kind of makes people being afraid of Superman seem a bit silly. Superman is strong. Manhattan doesn't need to touch things, he just thinks about them. Superman is impervious to damage. That's not even a real body Manhattan's in, he just willed into existence. Superman can move fast. Manhattan doesn't experience time linearly and already knows where and when Superman will be, and he's in multiple places at once. Superman has heat vision. Only as long Manhattan continues to allow the strong nuclear force to act on Superman's atoms before he dissipates into a cloud of subatomic particles. Morinder, the Dark Wanderer, formerly Mithrander, the Grey Wanderer, has an advantage over Sauron. He understands the people of Middle-earth deeply, not just their pride and fear but also their loves and aspirations. He can promise the hobbits of the Shire an endless cheerful landscape to make their home. As a person who's terrified of the tsunamis, Aquaman as a villain would be a nightmare. Also, I always pictured a live-action psychological horror movie where Boots from Dora the Explorer was a villain, and all he did was make it difficult for her to navigate through some creepy forest while acting like an innocent monkey. The protagonist of any Pokemon game. The plot of any given Pokemon game is basically some 12-year-old makes all of his or her Pokemon Swolaf, kills, captures a god, destroys some evil corporation, and gets crowned Pokemon champion. Imagine if the protag decided to join the evil corporation instead. This was my immediate answer. People say that Negan and Shane are like who Rick could have become if he wasn't a good person who had his friends and family to turn to. Herschel, Glenn, Morgan, McCon, Daryl, etc. Rick cares about his people and his family. He's definitely not the saint, but he's got people who help him stay on a better path. Imagine if he didn't take that better path, especially in Season 5. Jericho from Teen Titans. He can possess people through eye contact. He's a blonde mute who plays guitar on his downtime, But as a villain he could possess world leaders or freaking Superman if he wanted to. Then the heroes having to deal with the guilt of what he made them do. Great trauma. Being Slade's son makes it worse. Jericho's potential connections via his powers and Slade's diabolical plans are a recipe for disaster. Honestly, most great good guy stories have some version of them evil. And there have been some great mentions already, so I'm going with Gandhi. Imagine if his entire works were just a ploy to gain followers, so that he could gain control and power. He turned followers of peace into militants. Vast resources of India and surrounding areas assimilated through conquest to become a new Alexander the Great, sweeping through Asia and Eastern Europe with massive armies of zealots. Plus, if Civ games are any indication, he would have nuked somebody. Raffle. Adrian Monk. Imagine a criminal so intelligent and methodical, he stays behind to remove any prints and fibers, plus staging the scene to point the authorities in the wrong direction. If he wasn't such a basket case, he'd be the next Zodiac killer. No one would suspect a thing. Johnny Wick. I'm not saying he's strictly a hero since he was an assassin, but he has a moral code others have noted in the films. Chaotic good is his alignment, I suppose, since he was fine letting sleeping dogs lie until Viggo's shithead killed said dog. And then everyone keeps wanting to play a nice game of fuck around and find out with Wick. You find out that you die tbhsmdh. But imagine if he was chaotic evil. Ooh boy ooh man oh ooh. Ben 10, Gwen, and Kevin. What happens when you make a group of overpowered teens evil? The Earth would become a hellscape. One can absorb DNA and matter, and if overpowered can become an insane monster. One can control energy and magic at a high level, and the worst of the three can literally become anything, especially one that is a literal god. This would be worse than Superman, worse than Goku, and worse than Dr. Manhattan. Dr. fucking Manhattan. If you watch all of Ben 10, you will see how powerful they are and how screwed society would be if they became evil. Rocket Raccoon. In the first 3 issues of Rocket Raccoon and Groot, he pretends to be a villain to take out a tyrant. He takes his role so seriously that he literally sentences people to be tortured and executed, including Groot. Imagine if he wasn't pretending. Percy Jackson. There's already a bit where you kinda see it, as he chokes a goddess with poison, but the kid is so powerful and only seems to get more powerful. Earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, not to mention be able to control liquids other than water. Potential bloodbending, and I don't think any other demigods would stop Percy if he tried to destroy the gods. Some might even help. Percy is terrifyingly powerful and people are honestly really lucky he hasn't snapped. This may be cheating, but the August 8th cluster from Sense8. You've got a hacker, Nomi, a thief with emotional detachment, Wolfgang, a confidence trickster, Leto, an inside man, Will, an expert on how the financial markets work, Sun, a chemist that can make bombs with household goods, Kala, a car specialist, Capheus, and a face, Riley. Don't forget that they can transfer skills and knowledge between each other. David Charleston from the Reckoners series, an intelligent guy with great aim with a rifle with super strength, invulnerability, energy blasts, flight, wind manipulation and changing non-living material into steel, plus a vast knowledge of other epics, in universe terms for someone with superpowers. Superman. He honestly has a lot more reason to be a villain than a superhero. I think the reason I never really liked him as a superhero is cause he's unrelatable to me. He's too good, too simple. People are mean to him and he just lets it go. His parents are killed and he just lets it go. People bully him at work and he just lets it go. Lol, nope. He'd make an amazing villain though, and if we explored the fact that he was always treated poorly and he tried to be good but people just kept pushing him down, he'd be brilliant and also garner a stronger fan base. As a screenwriter who's trained and worked in television and film, I can guarantee this would be epic. Lol, he'd be an amazing anti-villain. Well, the Batman Who Laughs already exists, and is a version of Batman who got exposed by the Joker to the tax and that made the Joker who he is. He's so evil and crazy that a different universe Joker is afraid of him and told Lex Luthor he would leave the Legion of Doom if they ever cooperate with him. He's basically Batman with no morals. And it took a different Batman teaming up with the Joker to defeat him because it's the last thing any Batman would ever predict. Metro Man from Megamind. I mean, it's even part of the plot. Metro Man's powers in the hands of someone who isn't as noble. I put that in quotes because of what Metro Man does during the film, such as how makes an civilian instead who destroyed and terrorized Metro City. And since Titan could only be defeated by depowering him, the actual Metro Man could wreck everything if he ever wanted to break away from that guitar of his. Then again, given the quality of his debut song, maybe he's already gone villain. My ears certainly cried for mercy. Tongue. Spider-Man, an extremely powerful man that has the uncanny ability to detect surprise attacks at the last second and uses a special chemical compound to make webs. Now think about how easy it would be for him to web you up and just cover your mouth and nose with webs while you helplessly suffocate if you aren't already dead from getting punched by him. Most of them, and there has been many movies on the good guys being a bad guy, like there was one with Superman for example, and it was like Burn Man or Burn Something or I don't know, and it was Superman as an evil kid, and dear lord, that was creepy. You also have to consider the one that is also the most humble and quiet kind of person who really stands up for what they believe in despite what everybody says, especially in this politically correct delusional lifestyle kind of world. Someone like that, you wouldn't have to worry so much about them taking your body or everything you own and cutting you up into small pieces so much as they also would have the knowledge on how to literally take your soul. Just food for thought. The ones that you don't see who aren't flamboyant, what should concern you? The ones that everybody rejects who's actually trying to be good, because when they break hard. So in other words, be nice to people, everybody out there, because you never know who could be your best friend or your worst enemy. Besides, life is too short for all the ugliness and the drama. I know he's sort of morally great, but he is a supporting protagonist, so I'll give it to him. Akayasu from JoJo's. This motherfucker has a stand that can literally erase things from reality. He could tear down the Empire State Building in 10 minutes if he wanted to. He could body pretty much every villain from the series, and does in fact assist in killing Kira. He could literally erase your brain from your head with a casual hand wave. The only thing holding him back from going full destroyer of worlds is that he's dumb as a box of rocks. He actually is introduced as a villain before allying himself with Josuke and friends, so it's clear the author considered this. The obvious answer is Superman, but that's been done a bunch of times before in the comics and even was a subplot for the Batman v Superman movie and Ben Affleck having those visions. Batman is my pick, but that has sort of been done. Not fully though. They had Bruce making files on all of the other heroes in the comics as contingency plans in case one of them went rogue. My favorite good guy becoming a terrifying villain was Peter David's Hulk story, where in the future Hulk kills all of Earth's heroes after Betty Banner dies. Like they try to nuke him, but he's the Hulk, he just absorbs all the radiation and becomes stronger. More crazy stuff. Debatable as a good guy in some portrayals, but Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, he doesn't have powers, but he has wealth, and the intelligence to take out almost every member of the Justice League, and do it subtly so people wouldn't even realize something was happening until it was over. He also has access to a team with a variety of skills and can get his hands on almost any material in bulk, including kryptonite. I think the scariest thing is that he could probably take over America by just twisting the system to his advantage. No need to do villain theatrics, he's just that good. Gandalf, he's actually pretty terrifying as is. You could argue that Gandalf as a villain would just be Saruman, but Saruman never gets his hands dirty. Gandalf rolls up his sleeves and gets shit done. If Gandalf were a villain, he'd be free to use his power at full force, making him like an undamaged Sauron or a brave Saruman or a Balrog that stopped hiding. Nothing in Middle-earth could stop him. Tower of Babel revealed his weakness to be freezing. Liquid nitrogen or Mr. Freeze's gear would stop him. Granted, he is immortal. In the pages of JLA, he was once petrified and shattered in the past, and they found him again in the present. He revealed he was conscious the whole time.